Welcome to the Business Bloke podcast. Growing your business doesn't have to be hard. I am your host, Andrew Savage, a business and mindset coach with plenty of leadership tools and strategies to help you grow your life and business. Give yourself permission to get curious, lean in, and enjoy this episode. Today in the studio, I have Craig Heppel. Craig owns his own real estate company here in Tasmania, and like me is ex-police, and we're going to talk about all things negotiation today. Welcome to the studio, Craig. Hey, and tell us something about yourself that most people don't actually know.
Does it have to be family friendly?
Nah, there's no limits here.
I suppose one of the big things about me is I'm an absolute music nut.
Yeah, right.
I can't play a note, but I've got a real ear for music, and I've got a massive catalogue, and you'll often see me at one of the local gyms, throwing weights around with my headphones on, listening to bands like Duran Duran and Depeche Mode, New Order, all that sort of stuff. I'm a real music freak.
All the classics. What I'm amazed about at the moment actually is our kids, like my boy's 16 and our younger kids, they all listen to the music that we listened to in the 90s.
Yes,
and
so do my boys.
Yeah.
They love it.
No replication for it.
Even bands like ELO and The Sweet, that I know we're sounding like, excuse the terminology, old farts, but that's when bands were bands. They played instruments, they sang, they rehearsed, they were solid. Yeah.
We've lost all the opera singers in the audience now, but that's okay. Hey, I'd love to, negotiation, right? It's a massive topic. And I think by the end of today, people will realize there's more to negotiation there is more negotiation in our lives than we actually give credit for. I'd love to hear, what's your take on negotiation, especially, when we go about our daily business?
Well, every single day, believe it or not, you don't realize it. You as an individual will negotiate with someone at some stage. It could be your kid, could be your spouse, could be a workmate, could be just another member of the public, could be someone in a shop. Every day we negotiate. We don't really realise it until, I suppose, the rubber hits the road. We're trying to get to a certain point. We're trying to get a certain outcome. But one of my main thrusts about negotiation is, I've been a negotiator in real estate for coming up 22 years, but 14 years in the cops I negotiate. So that's almost a lifetime of negotiation. But one of the big things is, negotiation isn't a fight to the death. It's a way to bring about a result where both parties can feel comfortable with that result. Because if someone goes away feeling as though they're the victor and someone goes away feeling as though they're the vanquished, it's not a very nice deal.
100%. A lot of it, like you say, is about reaching that mutual understanding and of each other, as opposed to, like you say, wanting to beat the other one to death and come out the victor. Yeah. And you see this, I guess, in one was the police. We got lied to a lot, I suppose.
Every day.
Yeah. How do you, I guess, keep a cool head and negotiate with someone who you either suspect is telling fibs or you feel like they maybe have an ulterior motive, or that's because we enter a lot of negotiations thinking that everyone's got some sort of secret or that they're trying to beat us. Yeah.
Even in this game, both parties can withhold information that can help the negotiation push along. They feel as though they don't want to play their cards. But in real estate, what people have to understand is, sure, it's about what you're going to pay for a property or what you're going to get for a property. But generally, it boils down to one thing: destination. You want to be somewhere else. And if you're withholding information from the intermediary, which is me, sometimes things can start to unravel. And I can usually tell very quickly if someone's having a lend with me and they're not giving me all the information that is relevant to well, getting a good deal together, getting I suppose, a deal that's got everyone with a smile on their face at least, or they feel as though they've been dealt with fairly.
Makes sense. Yeah. So how do you say if someone is in that position where you think, hang on a minute, there's something missing here and they're not telling me the full story?
Well,
how do you approach that in a way that's, I guess, not aggressive, or how do you extract
well,
that
I've usually got a background from either party, especially a vendor, someone that's selling, because we've had many conversations around their motivation to sell, why they're selling, what their expectations are, where they're going, all that sort of thing. And we've had these conversations, and if I feel as though that they're starting to change that narrative a bit to try and have yeah, they want to have a win. I get that, and I want them to have a win, but a win that is starting to, excuse the terminology, piss a buyer off, I might have to remind them of the conversation we had right at the very beginning where they were looking to achieve X, Y, Z.
Makes sense. And when you say a win, I'm thinking it's not always about the money either, is it?
Well, sadly for most, it is about the money, because no one wants to feel as though they've had a loss, but at the same time, they want to feel as though they've achieved maybe better than their neighbour down the road or their brother who sold 3 years ago or whatever it might be. Everyone wants to feel like they've had a win. So, but ultimately, a deal can come down to the terms of a deal, in that how long before the buyer wants to take possession. Is it cash? Is it a cash deal? Cash deals are like hen's teeth. And someone comes up, makes an offer that's cash, that means there's no hinges, there's no, moving parts. That's something that needs to be listened to. Have they got another home to sell the buyer? Are they subject to finance or final approval from a bank, where we've got to go through valuations and final tick-offs that they can deal with the loan once they've secured the home? Can they look after that loan? Can they pay it? So there's a lot of moving parts in terms, and sometimes it can come right down to terms. However, the number one is obviously price, but you've got to listen to the terms as well, because that can determine whether you're going to push through with this deal or not.
So a lot of it seems to come down to the pulling of levers. And I guess if you're a cash buyer, for example, or, put yourself in the minds of a police officer negotiating with a criminal, sometimes you're pulling levers. You go, hey, I've got this thing up my sleeve that I can kind of pull out, and it kind of puts them in a position that they have to say yes. Is that something you sometimes have seen?
Well,
in those
I've never told a vendor that they have to take a deal. It always comes down to their decision. I can provide them with all the relevant information to get them to make what I call is a smart decision. However, some people don't want to make a smart decision because they feel as though they might be getting not so much underdone, but they're not just quite reaching their expectation. So I always bring every bit of information that I've got from a buyer to a vendor so they understand the situation. But I never, ever will say to a vendor, well, you have to take this or you must take this. I'll suggest strongly that this is the deal that you've been waiting for, but ultimately it's their decision. And it allows me to now talk to you about the two biggest deal killers, which are pride. That's one of the worst. Pride's a shocker. Just generally emotion and greed. Pride and greed. They're the two big ones.
Yeah, that's right. And is it, like I say, it's those things that drive us and to make these decisions. It's funny because whenever we've negotiated for a property, I've always got my wife to do the negotiations but for some reason she just seemed, I always had, I guess, a mindset of, they're asking 460, maybe we should kind of offer them that. Or maybe I'll go 450, but anything below that, I feel guilty or just like,
Yeah.
I feel like I've just thrown something in their face. Whereas my wife would just go, no, we're offering them 430, and that's where we go. So I just walk away and go, right, because I know.
Look, I can tell you that the majority, not the majority, but it's a bit of a 50-50 split. About 50% of buyers are very open to making cheeky offers because they think that the vendors, in a moment of madness, are just going to accept it. And I warn them. I say, well, you're not going to get it for that, but at least we've started a process. But some buyers will come in and they will say, well, look, we really want it. We're willing to offer X, which is either on the money or close to it. And it might be a very quick negotiation to get it over the line. But most buyers, they want to feel like they got a bargain.
Yeah, I've heard that sort of terminology used as like an anchor, that you go in with that first offer and really all you're doing is sort of drawing a bit of a line in the sand to say, hey, let's start here. Like it's not, you don't have to put emotion on it or get too excited about it. It's really the start of an ongoing conversation, isn't it?
So one of the toughest jobs I've got is, and let's just use an analogy with a number. You use that number of 460, right? Say we're on the market, it offers over 460 or whatever it is, and a buyer comes in and says, well, we want to make an offer of 430. Now, that a lot of vendors would expect me to say, excuse the terminology, stick it in your ass, you're not getting it for 430. But what I know is it's the start of a process. And the hardest job for me is then to go to that vendor and say, Mary and Fred, they're very interested in your property. They've kicked off with an offer of 430, but before you react to that, I'd like you to understand the terms they're bringing. They're cash and they're willing to settle at a time that suits you. What do you want to do? I try and, because that all everyone's listening for is that number. And sometimes that's where that pride and greed comes out. And I've heard it so many times from a vendor, particularly the male, because we're built to protect, we're built to, stand up, is we'll tell them if they want to stick with that, they can shove it where the sun don't shine. And I'll say, well, do you actually want me to do that? Because they're the people in front of us. I can't tell you who's coming around the corner next or if that person will come around the corner next. Let's do what's in front of us. So negotiation, yes, it's about numbers, it's about terms, but it's also dealing with emotion.
100%. And it's like, if you sort of take that out of that context, when you were saying that, I was thinking of buying a new car and, you might have $100,000 Dodge Ram and you ask the dealer, hey, I'll buy it if you throw in the floor mats. And he goes, no, we're at our limit and we're not putting any floor mats in. Are you going to walk away from the shiny Dodge Ram for a set of $100 floor mats or something? People really start to, and that's when you start to go, it's not really about the money, it's about the control and the power and the pride, like you said.
Control, pride. I want to feel like I've got a bargain, because the one thing humans want to do is when they've secured the deal on their home, or as a buyer, they've secured the home that they wanted to buy, the first thing they want to do is brag.
Yeah.
Hey, I got that house for X. Oh, guess what we got for our house? X plus 10%. People love to be able to flex their ego a little bit.
Yeah, and it's trying to find that middle ground. And I guess it's tricky for you because, like you say, you're sort of engaged by the vendor, but then you're bringing offers from a third party or multiple third party at times, I guess. So it's about unpacking all that and positioning it in a way that...
That's one of the best positions a vendor can be in, is multiple offers. And we've had quite a few in the last few months, the situations where 2, 3, 4 potential buyers want to have a go there and then, and we have to then conduct what's called a multiple offer situation, where we ask each buyer secretly, basically, give us your absolute best offer now and we'll present it and we'll notify you if you're the successful bidder. So that can happen if a property is priced correctly.
Do you find that these skills or these negotiation skills or outlook that you do use on a daily basis? Because obviously
every single day.
And I've got a lot of police friends back home who became real estate agents as well. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, because we understand human emotion, we understand and can pick when people are fibbing. We understand expectation, and one of the things that you as a former policeman, what's one of the things we're taught to do is to ask questions. Telling's not selling. It's about asking the right questions, asking the buyer the right question at a certain time, asking the vendor the right question or group of questions at the right time. So all those skills come into real estate. And I had a bloke very early on in my real estate career. I was like, what was I, 37 or 38? And I had this vendor in Queensland, and he was an arsehole, I can tell you straight. Anyway, he was being difficult. His expectations were out of whack. I was taking him off as he was just blowing them off. He was being quite difficult. And he said, "You're in the cops?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, what's the difference between the cops and real estate? Why'd you make that big leap?" I said, "It's not a big leap. It's quite similar." I said, "The only difference now is I can't throw my clients in a boot and drive them around the corner." And his face, he just went. Anyway, the next offer I brought him, we got the deal done.
That's interesting, and I guess it's one challenge I guess out of that is trying not to bring that bias too, to switch from everybody's lying to me to, hey, I actually just want the answers, and you're bang on. It's asking those open questions, the what's, the who's, the how's, as opposed to closing
mate,
those
it's like a record of interview. Closed question, I want a yes or no answer. Open question, I want to hear your version or your story. And that's all. I'm just trying to unpack for people if they really want to move, because that's what it's about. I'll say it again. It's about destination. That's what I'm trying to unpack. Do you want to go from A to B? And if you don't, stay here. Stay in the house you've got and live happily ever after, because at the moment, the market's willing to pay X. If you're not willing to accept anywhere near that, if you're not willing to accept that, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%.
Mate, I've got horror stories of people who knock back offers and taken less months later, far less.
And that's kind of where I was sort of heading to. I was interested to know, how people's maybe ego and pride has got in the way of a good deal, and what has been the implications of that.
Well, I'll give you one example. I took a home to auction in Queensland. It was a young couple. She wanted 500,000 dead to rights, and the market was during the GFC. The market was horrid. There were, you could have fired a gun down the street and barely hit a buyer. Anyway, we had about 20 people through the house leading up to the auction, and the feedback on price averaged out of all the people that went through the property was 475, 480,000. And I gave her that feedback. We conducted the auction. It was passed in because no one was willing to get to that magic 500. Anyway, that next week I had a woman come forward and make an offer to 460,000. I said, "Well, you're not getting it for that." I said, "You've got more, haven't you?" She said, "Yeah, but I'd like to start there." I said, "Let's see where it takes us." Went to 4.6, took that to the owner, took it on a contract. She literally threw the contract at me and said, "This is unsatisfactory. How dare you bring me such an insult?" I said, "Right, as of this day, I do not work for you. I'll send you an email. We're over and out." So that deal obviously didn't go any further. She sold it 3 months later for 445.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. The old ego getting in the way.
Yeah, massively. Yeah. But she had everyone in the background, mother, father, baker, candlestick maker, butcher, everyone in the background who were the so-called experts giving her the advice. Well, they cost her about 40K.
And I think it'd be a real lesson here for everyone that to actually, even when we're talking to I find my toughest negotiations right now is with my teenage kids. It's hard, and I'm digging real deep to come up with all the open questions because they take everything so literally. I've got
my kids were teenagers once, but sadly I did negotiate for a while till I thought, no, bugger this, and then I came in with the sledgehammer.
That's right, and it's like, at what point do we come in hard and fast? But it's the same with our staff. Everyone's negotiating every day, like, and just our terms, or even if they take a sick day off. How do you respond to that? I was actually talking to someone yesterday about different responses to things and how we respond and why are we responding to these types of situations.
Yeah, sometimes you've got to. Being in business, I've had employees as well. Sometimes you swallow it. You got to swallow it. And you know very well that they're pulling a Swifty on you. Some people are genuine. They might be ill or whatever. But I've had the ones that'll pull a Swifty. But you've just got to swallow it because they have certain rights and certain privileges that their workplace agreements. Have in black and white, but everyone will test you. And now I'm not talking about employees or otherwise. I'm talking about everyone in life. Everyone will test you. They'll see whether you're thinking, whether you're on the ball.
Yeah. Exactly, sort of like putting that anchor down in every conversation almost to see where are you in your position and that sort of type of thing. Yeah,
that's exactly it. They'll always test. We're testing each other, but. I find, even that people negotiate on, I suppose, items that they're buying on Facebook Marketplace. They'll try out there. I sold some household furniture recently, and nobody just walked. I tell a lie, one piece, I knew I priced it well. Bang, they offered full price. Thank you, deal done. But another one, I had 3 or 4 groups trying to negotiate down. Whilst I did move a little bit myself, they all started well off the pace.
Do you want to swap a lowered SR, what is it, WRX, such and such, or like the people that want to swap these weird, probably stolen things? I have a term that I call horribilization, and it's like you start to enter a negotiation like Facebook Marketplace, and people say, right, I'm going to say this, and then he's going to say that, and then I'm going to come back and say this, and then he's going to say that, and then I'm going to get at him, and people start to pre-frame how the conversation is going to go.
You will fail miserably.
If you try and
pre-frame any negotiation, you should have an idea of where you want to start and where you want it to finish. But if you think you're going to fill everything in the middle with a rehearsed script, over.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it'll twist like a snake. Things come up.
Yeah, people will start to manifest anxiety and anger and like say that pride thing starts to get there, and the thing hasn't even happened yet.
That's it. Yeah. We're not there yet, but people are manifesting the end result before we're even near
it. Yeah, no, it's crazy, and a lot of it's just up here in that top 10%, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But I love. But that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and that's what's made me a successful real estate agent for the last 22 years, working with Karen. Is that it's all good to get the right pictures and attract the buyers and do the inspections and all that, but it's all any agent that's going to listen to this. The rubber hits the road in negotiation. That's where you earn your money. And if your vendor thinks for 1 second that you're not in there in the driver's seat beside them, you've lost them, and you can lose deals. You need to be in there in the trenches, getting them the absolute best deal you can, without scaring off buyers at the same time. It's a balancing act.
And I find you're probably in a unique position in that. I mean, I'm sure you have some ongoing relationships, but a lot of people are in a negotiation space. Maybe it's a contract, maybe it's an employment contract or something where they need to have an ongoing relationship with this person, and it's getting tested right at the start. But sometimes I guess yours are probably like, I'm selling my house and moving to, I don't know, London or something, and I don't see this person ever again. Like, is there a difference in how people negotiate, whether they have an ongoing relationship or not?
One of the key factors to being a representative like a real estate agent is to build a rapport and build a relationship early with your vendor and set parameters around what they expect of me and actually what I expect of them. So if you've pre-framed that relationship relatively early, when it comes down to the crunch, offers and getting deals together, generally they should come together reasonably easily and well, but you don't know how someone's going to react when they hear that number that comes from the offer. You know, as I say, okay, Mary and Fred have made an offer of 430. This is a beginning. What do you want to do? Just waiting for that initial reaction. And I can tell you 8 out of 10 times the reaction from a vendor is, I'm not taking that.
Yeah.
Owen said you were. This is kickoff. This is the bounce. This is the beginning of the game. Everything that's gone before it is the preparation for this moment and how we deal with it.
Like I say, it's the things that aren't said. Old Fred's probably already got 10 grand marked to one side for a jet ski, and as soon as you say the offer, his jet ski's just gone out the window.
Yeah, well, that holiday to Bali. But
That's right.
Whatever people's motivations are to get the money they want, that's fair enough. And one of the greatest, I suppose, skills is trying to work out before a home even hits the market how much it should hit the market for. That's a negotiation in itself. Negotiating with the vendor as to what price point should we put this on the market at that will actually attract buyers, not repel them, whilst working with your expectations. That's a negotiation in itself.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Like, say you've built all that rapport, and then they are going to list their house after you've gone through all this with them, and then they then hit that price to start with, and there must be times where you're just going, I know it's not going to sell. There's just no way.
I've had properties like that. I know that the expectations are that far out of whack that I'm going to do my absolute best to bring offers to them. But there's two ways of knowing whether a property is or where it sits. Number one is buyers react, buyers inquire, buyers come and inspect, and we can get their feedback, right? Or offers. The other flip of the coin is all we hear is the birds chirping. Nothing.
Yeah.
Because when you've got that deafening silence of the market, I know, but then it's being able to explain to the vendor that they've overshot the runway. Their expectations are way out of line with market sentiment. And that's the way it'll sit until something changes.
And is that usually related to, I've heard this, properties are on the market to sell or properties are on the market for sale. Is that related to the motivation of the vendor usually?
Yeah, mate. I find that I'll say to anyone, if your motivation to sell is less than 7 out of 10, don't bother. But if you're here to test the water with a certain price, that's something you should probably reconsider as well.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. Yeah, that's been really interesting. And there's a lot, like you say, a lot of parallels between real estate and just negotiation in general. Like
it is
huge.
Yeah, daily. You negotiate with your spouse, your kids, as I said, everyone across all walks of life.
Apart from your wife, you just walk away, don't you?
Well,
or you just say yes, dear, surely.
we try. I'll try for a bit, and then it's just, no, I'm out. Yeah, go and lick me wounds.
That's right. Yeah, that's a type of negotiation strategy. It's the most successful one you'll ever have. Hey, it's been an awesome conversation. Heaps of gold. A lot of parallels between police, real estate, just work, life, and general family. What's sort of one key takeaway that you would like, listeners to come away with as far as how they maybe approach a negotiation?
It's pretty simple, and speak less, listen more, and watch closely. Because I'll just give you this tip. one of the failures in people negotiating on a daily basis, whatever it is, whether you're selling something on marketplace, whatever it might be, negotiating with someone at work, in the general day-to-day life, people tend to put their position forward. This is my position. Then they'll shoot their gob off for several minutes justifying that position. That weakens your position immeasurably. The key is give your position to the other party and shut up.
Yeah.
That's it.
100%. Yeah. It's fascinating. Yeah. You could go down a big rabbit hole negotiation, couldn't you?
We could talk for hours. We could bore people to death. But I'll say this. I've got a radio show on 7AD. It's called Peak Inside, every Thursday at 11:20. And I did a show on negotiation several months ago. And my opening line was, most people are crap negotiators. Think they're good, but they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. It should be taught at schools. It's just these life skills that you get to our age and go far out. Man, we've burnt some bandwidth on bad negotiation.
Yeah, it's it. There's my favourite negotiator is the pride negotiator. If I don't get X, tell them to get stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go and do that now, shall I?
Yeah.
They're my favourites.
Been awesome. Hey, you've given us one of these. I'd love to know how if someone wants to connect with you, or even, hey, Craig, I'd love that episode, and you talked about the radio station. That's one way people can hear a little bit more. How do people connect with you?
Our website, ulverstonrealestate.com. Facebook page, Ulverston Real Estate. And my email address is craig@ulverstonrealestate.com.
And I've seen, I don't know, is it Facebook or Instagram where you've done a few quite good insights into, getting your house ready for sale and those.
Yeah, I do quite a few short videos on, sneak peeks on properties that have just come to the market, just tips. But the 7AD, a Peak Inside, it's called, Thursdays at 11:20. There's 5 to 7 minutes of gold in there. People should tune in.
Yeah, awesome. No, I really appreciate it. And I know you're busy selling houses and president of the Chamber of Commerce and all of those, or chair, or whatever it's called. So I really appreciate your time. It's always valuable, and it's been a really great conversation. Thanks very much.
It's been great, Andrew. Really enjoyed it, mate. Thanks.
Awesome. Cheers. If you've got this far, you've reached the end of the episode, or you've left your car running. I really hope you got something out of this episode of the Business Bloke podcast, and maybe you've got something to take away to apply to your own business. I'm a pretty friendly bloke, so you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just look up Andrew Savage, or on Instagram. The handle is The Business Bloke. Thanks for listening. Reach out, and we'll catch up with you soon. Good one. Cheers.